All right, welcome in everyone. This is a special producers chat. Brian Hagberg with you here for your daily local, and joining me today from Two Moms Media, Stacey Gross. Stacey and I are the executive producers of a new podcast, Smoke: The Disappearance of Damien Sharp. And as the title suggests, this is an investigative podcast into arguably the biggest mystery Warren County, Pennsylvania has ever seen. Stacey, thanks for dropping by and letting people know what Smoke is going to be all about.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to release it. It's been a whole year of just, I don't know, the story's there, but until it's on the paper and on the air, it doesn't feel real.
So, I mean, it was a little over a year ago. You approached me about doing this project. And I know we talk about it a little bit in the podcast, but just share with our viewers here, what kind of inspired you to want to do an investigative podcast, first of all, and then specifically this case?
I have wanted to know what happened to Damien since he went missing. I heard about him going missing. I was going to school in Edinburgh at the time. I never imagined that I would be a reporter. After I had been a reporter for a little bit, I thought, man, it would be so cool to go back and do some digging, but it's someone else's beat. So now that I don't have anything else on my plate, it felt like the right time to really devote a lot of time and energy to one story and one story only. And if there was going to be one, it was going to be this one. So.
And I know, when you kind of first approached me about this, it was very much okay, I've never done a podcast before, but if we're going to do one, this is probably the best place to start, especially, from our perspective at your daily local, a hyper local news outlet for Warren County. This is right up our alley. And again, there's no bigger mystery in the county's history to try to solve than what happened to Damien Sharp after May 25th, 2002.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I cannot deal with a mystery like that. So now that I have the resources and the knowledge about how to even put a project like this together, and even that, with all the experience that you and I both have together, we're still kind of blazing trails. Podcasting is kind of the Wild West right now. So it's a good time to get in.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know, both of us kind of came into this project maybe with differing opinions about what may or may not have happened. And a lot of what we thought we knew has been debunked over time. And a lot of the theories that we've come up with ourselves have evolved over the course of the last year and however many months it's been.
Just listening to the Dave Sherman interview, and that's actually bonus. You can actually, if you want to subscribe right now, $5 a month, get you all your bonus content plus your episodes a day early. Excuse me. If you want to subscribe right now, you can hear that entire interview with Dave Sherman. But just listening to it, I'm like, holy crap, we were babies. We had no idea. We had no idea what we were even biting off.
There was I think it was probably good. I think it was probably good that we started with Dave too. I mean, because it wasn't, the interview with Dave is not necessarily, an in-depth deep dive into what may or may not have happened, but it's more or less explaining to people who may not be from here what the geography, what the demographic makeup is of Warren County. And like you said, even just through the course of that conversation, we were very new to what the investigative podcast was all about. But through that conversation, we were able to flesh out some other things that I had forgotten, for one, and maybe some other, theories and rabbit holes that we could go down and chase to try to find more information.
Yeah. And I think listening to that too, as you listen to some of this isn't all in the podcast itself, but in the bonus, you kind of we were able to model, and I don't think we realized we were doing it at the time, but it's a really good model for how to speculate and how to kind of be inclusive in your thinking and reasoning, and how to reason through things with curiosity and an open mind, but also skepticism.
And speaking of speculation, obviously this is still technically an open investigation. And so there are limited things that police and law enforcement are able to share with us. But I think we've done as good a job as we can of outlining what is speculation, what is known fact, what is accepted fact, which is different than speculation, because there's a lot of truth to base that known or accepted fact on, even though it can't be necessarily 100% confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, and I just did another interview with Joe Sperveri, the City Warren Police Chief, earlier this week, and we were just talking about, we're fixated on the fact that it really is folklore, and folklore, urban legend, all those terms don't really have anything to do with the truth of a story. It's more about how community interacts with a story, if they're motivated to perpetuate a story, if it changes over time, and if it explains something that they don't have an explanation for, that makes it an urban legend. So trying to piece out the little kernel of truth in an urban legend is never easy. You're going to have to be very comfortable with speculation if you want to try to do that.
Well, and especially on a case that's 20 years old and probably fair to say 18 years cold, if we're being perfectly honest. Everybody's got their own opinion about what may or may not have happened to Damien. And if you walk down the street and ask somebody in Warren County, hey, what do you think happened to Damien Sharp? You walk up to 5 different people, you're probably going to get 5 different answers.
Five different answers, but you're going to probably get 2 variations of 3 different stories. Do you know what I mean? It's so strange when you can pull them out to the roots and kind of find a basis for each one. And then as you go down the rabbit holes, it's fascinating to see them change.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it really is. Every theory is its own rabbit hole because, again, 20 years later, you can't just necessarily dismiss something because, as we found through the course of this investigation, sometimes the rabbit holes that you think are going to lead nowhere end up having, branches and tunnels off that lead to whole new people to talk to, whole new theories to investigate, and it just becomes this maze of different places that you could go with it and that need to be investigated to make sure that that's not what happened.
Right. Yeah. And it all comes down to hash marks on a list. Every time that someone mentions a name to me, that goes on a list. And the more times that someone mentions a place or a name or a scenario, the more interested I become because, if that's a legend and people are making variants of that legend, why? They're motivated to do that. So there's probably a kernel of truth somewhere in there,
It appears we have lost Stacey. She is in one of the more rural, remote areas. We'll see if we can get her back here real quick. But again, just to expand on what she was saying, there's been an awful lot of different rabbit holes that we've had to go flesh out with this case. Do want to take a minute. She mentioned talking to City of Warren Police Chief Joe Sperveri a moment ago. They've been as cooperative as they can be. Again, this is an open investigation, but they are certainly looking to try to help in any way that they can. They, of course, want to get this off their plate as well. And if this podcast can help them do that, hopefully we can ease some of their burden a little bit. And again, just waiting to see if we can get Stacey back. It looks like she's shooting me a message here, so give me just 1 second. Apologize for that. Technology is what it is. There she is. We'll bring Stacey back in. All right, we're back. I was just saying, you mentioned talking to Joe Sperveri and that we needed to give us thanks to them for being as cooperative as they can be. Again, with an open investigation, there's only so much that they're allowed to do, but they've tried to help us as best they can and have been very open and forthcoming.
Yeah, I will say 100%. I did not expect the warmest reception, and I was pleasantly surprised by just kind of what we've been able to, find out from them, and also, provide to them as we do work through different theories. I'll bring things up to them and say, I don't know if anybody's brought this up to you, but this is, might be interesting.
Yeah, and and again, this is one of those things that part of maybe the problem, if we want to call it that, with this case is it's gone through a couple of different investigators. I believe it's on the 4th now, if we count Tony twice. Different lead investigator for the case, and every time somebody new comes on, they've got to reacquaint themselves. And as the years pass, that priority just gets bumped down farther and farther down the list because there's things that are currently happening that take up a lot of their time.
I think that the way that it bumps down the list in a police department is kind of the same as how it would bump down the list in a traditional newsroom. If there's nothing new to add, and if there's nothing that we can tangibly investigate, then it just becomes a question of the public has a lot of opinions on what can tangibly be investigated, what resources there should be. And so that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to do too. And I was really hopeful that the department would be open to discussing, let's educate people about what resources there are, what it takes to get those resources, and what kind of information you need to have in order to motivate that.
And one of the things too that we found, every time we get a new piece of information or something that we share on social media, which you can check out Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram via @Let'sFindDamien, if you want to go check us out on social media. But it seems like anytime something gets shared, you get 2 or 3 more people that come out and say, "Oh yeah, I remember that, and that jogged this memory of this." And again, it's just after 20 years, people sometimes think they don't even have a piece of the puzzle, much less a big piece of the puzzle.
Sure. And it's so many pieces.
Sorry, that's my dog saw a rabbit in the backyard, so she's going a little crazy here.
I can't stand rabbits either.
But yeah, and anyway, people, again, after 20 years, it's amazing what you can remember sometimes.
Yeah, the memories that have been jogged, and I've even had family members say to me, "I can't believe you just said that. Holy crap, I forgot." So.
All right, if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to let her out, or this will continue forever. I apologize for that.
Go ahead.
Such is life when you're working from home, folks.
Absolutely.
Kids, dogs, cats, mass hysteria.
Just life in general.
Bill Murray a little bit. But again, it's been amazing, really, to see what people do and don't remember, and how many times just talking something out with somebody can really jog their memory and bring something back that ends up becoming a valuable piece of information.
Absolutely. And, people who have even said, "I didn't know that this was important. I didn't know what time he was last seen. And I figured if the police wanted to talk to me, they would." Well, just being aware that, what time he was last seen wasn't highly publicized. So, there's a lot of information, I think, still out there, and it just needs the right kind of pressure and the right kind of talking and memory jogging.
Well, and hopefully that's what we can do with this investigative podcast, is get some of those memories jogged, get people talking about this case again. Don't forget, first 3 episodes drop this Wednesday, May 25th, the 20th anniversary of the last time Damien was seen here in Warren County. And again, go find Smoke, The Disappearance of Damien Sharp, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go check it out. First 3 episodes again drop on May 25th. And if you are so inclined, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. And Stacey, what do subscribers get if they sign up?
Yeah, so it's a real easy sign up. It's right through our Anchor page. We're going to share the link. You can just hit the link, hit subscribe. It's $5 a month. You're going to get all of your episodes a day early. So instead of getting the first 3 episodes on May 25th on Wednesday, you're going to get them on Tuesday, May 24th. Going forward, there will be 10 episodes total. So you'll get your other 7 episodes on Tuesday instead of on Wednesday. You're also going to get access to the actual interviews that I've done with people. And so that's really kind of a fun thing to listen to. And there's a lot more information. We went through a lot of just forensic possibilities and plausibilities with Dave Sherman that had nothing to do with Warren County, but are interesting. And if you really are interested in the case and want to kind of super sleuth yourself, it's a wealth of information. It's a wealth of potential answers. And there's just so much more. Every interview, I can fit maybe a third of it into an episode. But there's so much more. So if you're interested if you're listening to the episodes, you like those interviews, you want to hear more of those interviews alone with no narration, $5 a month. You get at least one every week. Sometimes there's 2. It just depends on how many guests we have.
And if somebody starts listening to the podcast and they have something jog their memory, Obviously, we can be reached via social media channels that we talked about earlier at Let's Find Damien on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And Stacey, you've got a phone number people could call, correct?
Yeah, 814-230-5855. If you want to text me your name and say you have Damien information, that helps me kind of prioritize my texts and messages when I get done with whatever I'm doing. And then as soon as I have a break, I will check in on those and get back to you.
And again, if somebody wants to go directly to City of Warren Police, they're free to do that. And Crime Stoppers has had a reward available for a long time that is still out there. Calling Crime Stoppers if you have information leading to Damien's whereabouts.
June 17th, 2011, they made a record reward. They made it $2,000.
As you can see in Stacey's house, there is a lot of information about Damien, about the case. And this is certainly not something that we're taking lightly. There's been a ton of work put into this podcast, and we really hope everybody will give it a listen on May 25th.
Absolutely. And I would say the tone of it is in keeping with Damien's style. I've tried to, if there's comedy, if there's humor, I try to keep it in keeping with what I think he would find appropriate. And I kind of bounce that off family members too, just to see. But, it's not a dirge, but it's also not a celebration. So.
All right. So we will leave you with a little bonus clip from episode number 1. Don't forget, first 3 episodes of Smoke, The Disappearance of Damien Sharp, drop on Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. Smoke is a co-production of Two Moms Media and Your Daily Local, and we really hope you will stop in, give it a listen, and help us find Damien. Stacey, thank you so much for coming on, and can't wait to hear it on Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining in on the project.
All right, thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Enjoy this bonus clip from Smoke, The Disappearance of Damien Sharp.
I've been asked so many times, why? Why does this matter? Not, why does this matter, but why does it matter to me? Do I have some personal connection to Damien Sharp? Nope. Missing person in my family? Negative. Soulless, harpy journalist just looking for an innocent victim to further victimize through exploitation of his legacy, narrative, and living relatives? Jesus, where have we met? But no, sorry to disappoint. Did I have the hots for Damien back in the day? So I can say that I haven't spoken to one single woman who didn't acknowledge that Damien was kind of catnip, and especially to a particular quiet sort of girl. That's just social physics, man. I'm not unique in that respect, to be sure. Compared with all known available options to me in Warren County at that time as a high school student, 100% the man was in the top 10 list of attractive guys I recall from that time. Mainly, though, and I'm sure I can't be the only one here either, because he was mostly a mystery, even then. That, and he would have driven my parents, maybe, but for sure my grandparents, out of their minds. That was an important trait in a partner in the 90s. I'm not going to apologize for it. Anyhow, I had suspicions then that Damien and I shared a lot of the same challenges and might even find that we shared a lot of the same interests and values if we ever wound up speaking to one another, which never happened because I tried to avoid speaking to anyone in high school if possible. I always got a sense that the persona he crafted for himself, as Brian said, had more to do with weirding people out and making sure he didn't waste too much of his own energy on people who weren't comfortable at his level. It looked like offense, but it was really just protection, and it's maybe not the most adaptive coping mechanism, but in many ways it's brave as hell. Shit, Brene Brown is living my best life right now, doing TED Talks about the importance of living authentically and with deep thought invested into your own psychological makeup as well as that of others in the world at large. No matter how many of those damn TED Talks I listen to at 38, I still care way too much what other people think. For a woman who hasn't been actively okay with hurting others since she gave up the Percocet and found Jesus, legally prescribed psychotropic medication, in jail. Well, after jail. Damien broke through my awareness so strongly in school, I think, because of the lack of concern he appeared to have over what other people thought. Not only did he seem to me outrageously comfortable with controversy, he didn't seem a tad bashful about causing it either. While I never saw him go out of his way to cause a problem, I respected that he didn't have a reputation for being squeamish about handling problems others had with him just for being himself. In another episode, you're going to hear from Damien's friend Danica. She met him when she moved to Warren in 5th grade, and she told me that these assessments, while understandable for the perspective from which they came, that of a socially paralyzed and already quite anxious 14-year-old kid, was understandable, but not exactly entirely on the mark. Damien did have insecurities, Danica told me, and now, as a grown-up, they insist. This is not news to me, but I needed to hear someone who knew him confirm it. That's maybe been one of the best parts of this project, is getting a glimpse at my own ability to read and assess others. We don't often get such concentrated opportunities at feedback on that, but it's a good skill to seek feedback on for anyone, I think. So as I dug into his actual, as opposed to his legendary life, I discovered that Damien and I did share more than a few similarities in our character arcs. The uncertainty over but desire for acceptance? Check. The conflicted relationship with family? Oh yes, recognize that. The predisposition to be defensive? To admit people into our lives based on our own assessments of their characters rather than the aesthetic of their words? I almost wonder how much of my own current aspiration toward growth in all those areas, even when it's the hardest possible choice to make, has been quietly simmering on a flame at least partly fueled by Damien's memory, even after all these years. I think it's entirely possible that Damien has motivated a lot of the person I am today without my ever having consciously realized it, and that makes me feel like it's important to recognize that while we tell our kids that high school is just the beginning, and it is, the truth is that the core of who we are as people is forged in the fires of our school-age years, from kindergarten up, well before we're even agonizing over the cruel determinism of standardized testing or the social implications of wearing plaid with floral, for example. Who we become after that is based on who we spent all that time becoming, and you guys, we never actually stop becoming who we are if we're doing it right. You're always developing every day, whether you want to or not. Can confirm. So even if I wasn't able to manifest it then, I recognize the strength of personality it took Damien to stand up to bullies when the fight wasn't even his own, or to do what made him happy before what made his peers happy. I recognize those things for what they were, unique and enviable. And Dana will describe in the next episode what I recognize most of all is that no matter what he looked like, Damien was a lot of things rolled into one complex as hell person. So though he may not have struck a chord with the families of his wrestling teammates or the parents of his friends, or the people who could have helped police find him 20 years ago, the ones with knowledge of what happened to him, Damien could have been pretty much anybody who graduated within that decade between 1995 and 2005 in Warren County. In fact, Dana puts this way better than I ever could, and I think that's what I want to leave you with for this chapter.
And that's what's so important about this podcast, because when we stop talking about Damien, we stop the hope of ever finding out the truth.
Absolutely.
You know, Damien's dad is gone now. He passed 5 years after Damien in a tragic trucking accident. And Damien's mother is in a bad place physically right now. She's had some medical issues and is homebound and has been for a few years now. And everything she understands, I'm not sure. But, you know, he still has sisters and brothers and aunts and friends. And even if it's not for clarification for us, just justice. And if it could happen this easily and everybody just turn their head, when it happens to you, you want everybody to pay attention. You want everybody to know about it. And as long as we're talking about it, something's going to come out. Something is going to come out. I believe that 100%. I hope it's in my lifetime. I hope it's in my lifetime that it comes out, you know, because as different as Damien was, he was squeaky boy. You know, he was that beautiful little 2-year-old you're looking at right now that somebody's, you know, listening to this looking at, you know, that's squeaky boy, you know. He's silly weird. He was, you know, that athlete that's doing well and changing everybody's perception of who he is. You know, to me, Damien was kind of like Eminem.
Yeah, he reminds me of Eminem. I listen to a lot of Eminem, and I'm like
I hated Eminem. I didn't hate Eminem. I don't hate anybody, but like I didn't like Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, all that crap. That's just. And then you kind of see the movie, and you know, I know I'm an Eminem fan, you know, and that's kind of like Damien. You kind of look at him and think, oh, he's just, but then you find, you know,